man? Welcome to the cookout, man. It's your boy, TheeAlexMac. We got my boy DapperDom here.
What up, people?
Man, hey, we excited as always to get in front of you. Always trying to bring you something good. Hey, this month is Black History Month.
Black History Month.
I'm black, he black.
We black.
So we got to give back. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, let's chop it up though, man. Let's get into some things. DapperDom, what you want to talk about?
I got a
today?
question for you. Like, since we're talking about like Black History Month, I might cut up a little bit too. By the way, guys, I was gonna put that out there. It's my birthday, so I throw a joke or two out of the way. Just try to keep it serious. When you were in school, did you guys do like Black History reports? Like, did you guys learn about?
We definitely did. We definitely. That was still a thing when I was coming up, and it was still something that was taught. My father being an educator and a black man, like that was something that was important for him to just kind of instill in us. So we definitely had that. And I remember, I don't know the name of the book, but when I went to Alabama A&M, like this orientation class, they basically have I think it's a book about all the HBCUs.
Okay.
Basically just talking about, hey, you know, you're starting this journey. This is going to be the crop that you come from, man. So that was a big thing for me. Nowadays, honestly, having kids, like, it's scary because they don't have that. Yeah. They don't have it. And I know, like, when we had them off for Martin Luther King Day, I was like, man, y'all ain't just going to be off running around playing the game and stuff. So we sat down and we watched some stuff and talked through it. It wasn't like all day, but just something to start helping them understand where they come from.
She had the boys sit down and watch, I think it was about a 16-minute video about Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Junior, like, hey, this is why you're out of school. Who he is. Yeah. Or like, you know, like you hear about the Martins and the Malcolms and Rosa Parks, but like, I thought it was cool, man. I even remember to this day, like having to do like book reports. Kids got to do book reports, small thing. But Gary Morgan, like, you know, like he invented the first automatic traffic light.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Also, too, the gas mask. Like, he invented, I remember like just going and having to research who he was, man. It was just like the kids, I feel like the kids don't get that anymore. Just understanding those those black inventors that you wouldn't even thought about.
Absolutely.
Man, actually, as I was just researching on him a little bit, man, just make sure that I did remember what I thought I remembered about book report. Said he was the first African American to drive a car, own a car at Cleveland. So I was like,
I know that was big.
I was like, you imagine him stunned? I was like, Gary's pulling up in the hood stunned. Like, think about when you get a new whip today, you start like, but if you the only one with a car, you in the
like, they like, man, black man
in the car.
Man. Yeah, I think that is pivotal, man. And I do feel like, especially when you talk about it, I feel like, again, everyone knows, I guess, the common names, right? You know, even if you want to throw modern history with, you know, Obama, and, you know, some of these other people. But I do feel like, man, there's so many other people that made great contributions to not only us, but society.
Elijah McCoy is another one that pops in my head. He invented like the oil cup.
Yeah.
So it allowed railroads to kind of continue to oil without stopping. You know what I'm saying? Like an oil cup, like all the engine. I want to say the engine. And forgive me if I'm misspoken, but I do know he was the one who invented it. So like the railroad system, just think about like that was just the main way of people just transporting stuff or even traveling back in the day. Everything. Yeah. So like those people is like, oh man, like my people did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, do they even know that? You know what I mean? Like, because you wouldn't have got that unless you're teaching that in school, or you're now that I guess it's our responsibility to teach our kids that, hey man, go look up this guy, go look up that guy.
So you mentioned that, like, is there anybody outside of the, you know, the known GOATs? Is there anybody that you feel like has inspired you from, you know, your research or any things that you've done? That you've really, you know, taken that with you and the stuff that you
I wouldn't say just anybody just outside of the GOATs, man. Like, you have so many nameless people who was in the struggle and in the cities, man. And just those people, I think that I take from, because it's like, they're not even getting there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Martin's out there, Malcolm's out there. You know what I'm saying? They're out there, but like, they're not out there. They was like, well, we gonna be in this struggle together, whether I'm on the forefront of it, not like my face or out there. So like, and I think when I think about legacy, like, selflessness comes to mind as a word. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're risking their lives, maybe not even to be known. You know what I mean? And so that's who I think about, man. Like, our ancestors, man, who sacrificed that we don't even know about. And so, like, that's why I kind of get, I guess, agitated and upset at this generation today, man, who don't want to go to work or don't want to do this and think, like, I'm not saying we don't have our struggles, we do.
Right.
But if you look at what our ancestors went through, like, ain't nobody turning water hoses on us. Like, racism is still out there, and it looks different, but we have a little bit more of a voice, and a little bit, we can move a little different if we just band together. So yeah, I would just say, man, those countless of nameless people in our history to sacrifice for us, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I definitely think, you know,
you got one.
For me,
for
me, it's George Washington Carver. And that's just, obviously, everyone knows at this point I'm a food scientist. George Washington, for me, he was, honestly, I would say the first African-American food scientist in a way, but he had a lot of different things that he was doing within the agricultural space as well. So for people who don't know about him, just a little, you know, tidbit, you know, he was a person who really was helping our people. A lot of people known for the peanut. Right. And so I think there's some incorrect stuff out there that tries to attribute him as the person who founded peanut butter, but he actually founded multiple uses for the peanut in general. And a lot of it goes back to, he was trying to help our farmers really learn how to use their crops to live off of. And so he had basically found out that continuing to plant cotton was depleting the soil. So it's pretty much stripping the soil of nitrogen, which is something that's needed for, you know, the soil to kind of be enriched and kind of grow the crop properly. And so they weren't getting as good, you know, yields or amount or what they needed. So he was a big person in terms of crop rotation. So introducing, basically saying like, hey, if you're growing cotton and you get that cotton, you pick it, you harvest it, don't go back and put cotton again, put sweet potatoes, put peanuts. That's going to replete the soil. Then you can still make money off of that, live off of it, eat off of it. And then as the soil gets repleted, then you can go back to cotton. So that's what crop rotation is. And so for me, just so, again, being where I come from, you know, food scientist, that's somebody that really has inspired me. And it's so many different layers to it, because I feel like people don't understand. They kind of brush things off these days because they don't understand how important these things are that we came from. They don't know, you know, HBCUs was because they wouldn't allow us to get into their universities. Right? So we didn't have any other choice. And that was something that, you know, happened with him as well, kind of bouncing around at different places, and then, you know, being very, you know, popular and attached with Tuskegee, you know, Institute at the time. So that's the one for me. And I think, again, that's what it does bother me, because even stuff like voting, right? And trying to, like, it's people who literally gave their life
to vote,
you know, for us to be in this space.
We'd be like, we don't want to stand in line.
They'd be like, man, I don't want to stand in line. It's like, man, like, if people they literally was willing to give up their life for us to have those rights, man. So that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't necessarily remember who the quote comes from, but basically it's one where it's like, hey, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat its past. So for me, it's like we're getting on that dangerous margin where you have all these things going on, you know, across the country from a political standpoint. And it's like, are people really watching? Are they really listening and understanding, like, why some of these things were done in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s? and you know how it's changing. I feel like people are just kind of blindly moving along and not understanding the
repercussions.
Yeah, the repercussions of this, man. So
yeah. On a lighter note, I will say, y'all know I like to dress. Y'all know look. We talked about on the earlier episode, like our kids come out the house wrinkled. Like I didn't grow up coming out the house wrinkled. Like I remember ironing my clothes. So shout out to my girl Sarah Boone. She invented the ironing board. And I low key judge hotels depending on how the ironing board is, how the iron is.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, she created the ironing board, man. So yeah.
Yeah, you got people. I mean, we got lights in here. I think it was I think Benjamin Banneker was the one who, you know, figured out the filament piece that go, like, it's just so many different things that I feel like we have that knowledge because we grew up. Hey, we talked about these different things. And we in Black History Month, we was gonna be talking about it. And yeah, if you went and asked some of these kids, it's like, man, like if you went out and there's stuff I see on social media, and they asked them about, you know, the most famous. They asked them to name like 3 or 5 famous Black people, and it's either the GOATs, which is nothing wrong with that, or you know, rappers or entertainers or sports people, right? And so it's definitely a thing in our community where there's so many people that's contributing to the lifestyle that we're able to live, and we don't even know it. You know, they're unsung heroes, man. So I think that's a big part of it, and I think it's a part of what we've been talking about, and it's going to be what's on the grill in terms of like, what is legacy? Yeah. What does that mean to us? What does it look like? I think it's a complex topic, but we're gonna try to break it down today. So when you talk about our perspective,
so when you think about legacy, like what words? I know I threw out one earlier. Like what words come to mind for you when you think about legacy? Yeah. And I want to talk about. Let's see, can we get through it? Maybe like talk about like what do you want? Or what do we want the legacy of our podcast to be? What do you want, like the legacy as a husband, as a father, as a person in this community to be?
To me, I think legacy, if I had to think about it, impact.
Okay.
Or another way is like leaving permanent footprints somewhere. Yeah. That every time somebody walks, it's like, I know this person was here. If I had to think about it from that analogy, right? Like everything we've talked about is people that made not only a singular impact at that moment in time, but it's an impact that lives forever.
Yep.
Right. And so whether it's, hey, having a day off for school, or whether it's having monuments or statues, or whether it's, you know, having your name in the record books, or whether it's having, you know, hey, every time somebody, you know, flips a light on, they're like, hey, did you know that this person did X, Y, and Z? To me, it's about impact, and it's about using the gifts that you had to positively impact society. And that could be broad society, it could be your town, it could be your, like, it doesn't have to be nationwide. I think there's different ripple effects, but that's what it means to me. Yeah, that's how I would, you know, summarize it.
I said something, you said impact, I was like, something that outlives you. Like once you're gone, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's how you raised your kids, like they learn like, hey, this is what a good father is, you know what I'm saying? Or being in the community, like he was a guy who gave back and like wanted this community to be together, be united, and he just had impact on, like the word you say, impact on just countless individuals. And like you said, that ripple effect, like what I done might have just been in this community or in my household, but then my sons go out and take it to their friends, and they take it to their, you know what I'm saying? And so that's where that ripple effect comes about. So in terms of like our podcast, what do you want our legacy to be? Like, what do you see Invitation to the Cookout going, man? Like,
to me, I feel like for our podcast, man, it's about the betterment of the community. Okay. Like when we sat down and talked about it, we talked about trying to give a different perspective and representation within Black media, right? And so we felt like as we had a conversation, you know, are people talking about health? Not just, you know, what you eat, but you know, I think one of our favorite episodes we shot in season 1 was the men's mental health one. I think that was impactful. We had a lot of feedback
for sure
from men saying, man, I felt heard. Like I'm feeling that exact same thing. Like, and to me, that was impact.
Yeah.
And it's not about, I think people would confuse impact with status, celebrity, fame. You talked about it earlier. There's people who did things and maybe they were unsung heroes to the masses. So it's not about, hey, I need a monument, or I need, my name, somewhere else.
And it's tough this day and age. It's hard to cut you off. But like I work with kids, man. I was talking to a kid earlier this week, and they were like, "Coach, I just want to go viral." And I was like, that's cool. I was like, but like, what does that do for you? You know what I'm saying? And then, are you trying to go viral, doing something that's not authentic? You know what I'm saying? That's not true to who you are. Because like, say you do go viral for a video, but that's not who you really are. And the world sees you as this, and then you have to try to pretend to live up to it, because I went viral because of this video, and this is even not even who I am. And so like, I want this podcast to just represent who we are. And I know we talked about like, there's different levels of success. You know what I'm saying? Like, success to some people might be 2 million followers. Some might be 200K followers. I might be like, man, we got 200 followers, and like, they really rocking with us and taking what we're saying, man, and saying like, they might be spreading it to their friends, like that ripple effect we talked about. Like, their friends might not be watching, but they're watching and sharing the information that we're talking about on our podcast, man. And I know like right now we're just in this room, man, but I can see us engaging with the community, man, and then eventually like maybe putting on events, wellness events and food events where you have a combination of the two, man, and just the community to just come together as overall health standpoint. Merch, man, like, like eventually, man, I'm just be pulling up here and paying attention to the cookout gear, bro. Like,
man, we gonna have our own thing going on.
You know what I'm saying? I see that, man. I see us, like I said, like getting outside of this room and pulling up to restaurants or different places of businesses or having podcasts and just engaging with the community and sharing conversations that we are having at the cookout, but then also sharing conversations we should be having at the cookout.
Absolutely.
So
and I think for me, as I think about all of that, as we in the infancy stages or the idea stages about it, it really came to, how can I help the people in my community live better? Right? Because when you look at all the statistics, it's like, man, we're dying. We have these health complications. We're afraid to go see somebody and talk about our mental health struggles. And for me, a lot of it again was inspired because the early days and the early cycles of the HBCUs is that people left their communities, went to HBCUs, they got armed with education and tools. Then they went back home and poured into their community. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna be a lawyer now. I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna help the people, and I'm gonna be the lawyer for the town. I'm gonna be the doctor for the town. And so that model is something, and I could, talk about that part for days, but I feel like we've gotten away from that.
100%, man. Because I mean, I'll be honest with you, like I came from a small town in Camden, and it's dying. You know what I mean? But I know several individuals who left and went to college but didn't go back. You know what I mean? And so it's like, should we be doing more from a standpoint of, man, how can we, even if we're not physically living there, somehow go back or just help plant businesses or just do things in the community?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so I'm part of the problem too. You feel what I'm saying? Because we're living in Northwest Arkansas, it's enriched with, you know what I'm saying, with individuals.
All capital letters.
All capital letters, you know what I mean? And so they don't need, you know what I'm saying, they don't need my value as much as my community needs my value.
I agree, man. And I think there's two ways to look at it. I think what I found out about Northwest Arkansas is that there are pockets that are not enriched.
For sure.
especially through doing what we're doing with the basketball program. You run into some of these people that's like, man, we ain't got it like that. We can't just drop this bread and get this and get that. And so I think there are moments where it's like, okay, yep, I'm being called to help these people out because these are the people that represent my community back home, right? And even like you said, even if it's not physically, that's the piece of it. But I think from a societal perspective within the Black community, to me, this is just my opinion, is I think it's been similar to what you said about the viral piece. It's all been about how can we really tap into this capitalistic society and gain more and more, whether it's more cars, whether it's more jewelry, whether it's, you know, riches upon riches versus like, am I really, you know, am I helping somebody with the talents that I've been given? And so what happened is to me, I feel like we kind of fooled ourselves into saying, hey, we want to live this, we wanted to be a part of the American dream because we were never included in that.
Yeah.
And so our goal became, hey, we want to have the big house in the suburbs. We want to have a nice family car. We want to be able to do all these things for our kids. And it kind of shifted. We took our, like, in the words of, you know, Martin Luther King, we took our eyes off the prize.
Yeah.
And as a community, it seemed like we kind of went backwards in terms of that cohesive togetherness.
Yeah, for sure.
With each other.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, our legacy is about how are we giving back? How when people, there was somebody who left a comment on our last episode that we put up, and they said, man, I really didn't, he was paying attention. He put 3 notes down, and he said, I didn't realize how much went into the food that we ate.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, I taught somebody something. I used my talents to teach somebody something better. And so I think as we continue to platform, we want to get people on here outside of us that can teach some things, whether it's about
for sure,
mental health, whether it's about, you know, obesity, whether it's about diabetes, whether all these different things to help
financial literacy.
Financial literacy. Where like those are things where it's like, how can I help my people, arm them with the education they need to do better? Because one of the most interesting things that you know, I really believe, it may seem corny, but I believe that knowledge truly is power.
Oh, for sure.
If you got knowledge, you got power, man.
It buys you. I tell my son, and I tell kids who love to be like, school is boring. I said 100%. Like, I'll agree with you. Like, there are some kids who love school. Some people just love learning. I said, but I agree with you, it's boring. I said, but guess what? That education buys you freedom, like freedom to live life on your own terms. Reason why they didn't want us to learn how to read.
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? Freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I think about knowledge. Like, it buys me freedom, man. Gives me freedom to live life on my own terms, man.
Absolutely, man. I think, like you said, with that, when you have that knowledge piece, then you can decide, hey, now that I know this is what I'm going to do with it. So I think that's what it's about. To me, it's about spreading the knowledge. Yeah. Will there be other aspirations that we have coming from that?
Sure.
You know, there will be. But I think the core of it, and
what we're trying to do,
for us to not lose sight of the prize for us is, how can I help my people be better in all of these different areas that honestly we don't really talk about, man? And to me, I truly believe there is a knowledge gap. Like, one of the things that's going on right now is not to talk down to anybody, but it's like people are talking about tariffs right now. But when you go and look at it, people don't know a 101 of what tariffs is, right? And how it impacts things. And that's just a microcosm of a lot of things that we don't know about. You know what I'm saying? Going back to what we talked about with the Black history and some of our heroes that have done things. So I think it's about knowledge here at the Cookout. How can I arm you with something that I got from school that a lot of people, you know, shining light on, hey, there are more Black food scientists out here, and here's what we do, and there are Black life coaches out here, and here's what we do. Arming them with that knowledge so they can be like, oh man, if that leads to somebody saying, hey, I want to be a black food scientist.
Yeah.
If I want to be a black life coach, I want to, hey, now I'm going to go to the doctor more. I'm going to go to a psychiatrist. I'm going to go to a therapist more because these guys really came to the cookout and talked about some vulnerable things. Yeah, to me, that's our impact.
Yeah, I was having dinner with one of the kids I trained. He wanted to take me out for my birthday last night.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah, and so he got a little job, so he got a little something. We were talking about like the podcast. He was asking me like how we got into it, and I was telling him that you're a food scientist. He was like, one, is that a thing? And then two, he was like, he black? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So
it's real.
Yeah,
it's real.
So you don't know what you don't know, and so it's like I don't know what I can be if I don't see it. You know what I mean? And so I see it, and I was like, oh, I can be that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so
absolutely,
I think like that's what I want podcasts to resonate with our audience too. So just giving them a bigger and broader picture of things they might not just be naturally interested in or just want to know. Also too, man, I was reading. Just kind of I read a bunch of different things, man. And I started a men's group, but like we were just talking about marriage this past week, and I was looking, man, at the statistics of divorces, and what's crazy was like, I think 40-something% of first marriages end in divorce. 63% of second marriages end in divorce.
It goes higher? Wow.
And then with marriage, it ain't third time a charm. 70-something% of third marriages.
That's crazy. I don't think I would have guessed that. I would have thought it went lower as you get more. Okay.
But, and we were talking, but then out of that, like, divorce is highest in the African-American community. And so, wanted to, us being two married guys, man, fairly young. I'll be married 11 years in May. What do you want your legacy to be as a husband?
Man, that's Woo! Man, you gotta give me a cut scene. To me, I think it comes down to trying to be a better example for really my boys.
Yeah.
That's where it starts at, man. For me, like at the end of the day, if they become outstanding, God-fearing gentlemen, even if my ripple don't go no farther than that, then I'm good. I can die and be okay. So I think it starts there. And for me, learning is about, I'm a person, I'll tell anybody that gives a chance to get close to me and know me, I'm a self-professed nerd. Like because I like learning.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a curious mindset. So I might see something and be like, man, like, why is that? And I'll just start, and they got a book on this. I want to read that book. So to me, having that mindset is about always being willing to evolve or change the things that you think.
Yeah.
I think some of the strongholds we have on our community is, well, grandmama and them did it this way. Yeah. Our daddy and them did it. I don't know about other communities, but I feel like in our community, it's big on that. Yeah. Well, this the way grandmama and them did it, and they did it this way. Yeah. And honestly, as I look back at it and be an older and, mature man, it's like, they didn't have all the resources that we had. Some of it was, so if I go back and look at marriage in our community, it was very much, more traditional where the man, he went and worked.
Yep.
And the wife, stayed at home and did the house duties and raised the kids and all of that. And so you had some of these dynamics that were just downright toxic, right? Because the man was like, well, I'm providing,
for sure,
so I can do what I want to do.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. And a lot of times it was, in our community, it's very much, hey, stay in the child's place, stay out of grown folks' business. So you only have this glimpse of, well, they made it, you know, they were 20, you know, and then stories start coming out that it's like, man, well, it was abusive, or, you know, this person, you know, felt like they couldn't do this. And it makes your heart hurt a little bit, because it's like, man, you know, to me, especially being older and, you know, talking to, you know, people who got married after me, or people who are younger getting married, I'm not going to tell you that I think love is beautiful. I ain't going to tell you that it's easy. Right? I think there's this fairy tale, romanticized thing that people see, where it's like, oh, well, this would just be easy, and if you love this person, it just go like this, and it's like
they forget the commitment part. Yeah, that piece that you made, for better or for worse, richer or for poor, sickness or in health. You know what I mean? It's a commitment piece, man. I think, like, I want to say, like, I want my wife to be able to say at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that her life was better because I was a part of it.
Okay, I like it.
And I want to, and still got a lot of work to do in this aspect, from the emotional availability, just communication standpoint, because we come from a lineage of fathers who provided, made sure bills were paid, roof over our head, food on the table, clothes on our back, but that, hey, how do I communicate with my wife about this in a healthy way? You know what I mean? Like, hey, I have an uneasy feeling about this, or I don't know how to approach this conversation, because I always resonated, man, conflict with brokenness. And that's not the case.
I'm looking in the mirror and you say this, man.
And so still got a ways to go. So, but like, I want, course, like you said, like you talked about, like, my boys to be better than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell my 14-year-old time, like, hey man, look, I want you to be at 28 or 18, like where I'm at 38, 39. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to be healthy and know how to communicate. So like, when we're having conversations, man, I said, I'll tell them straight up, like, I'm not telling you something that I heard. It's something that I live or living. And just trauma, and just that I'm still trying to deal with as a 39-year-old man now, that I don't want you to have to. And so these little habits that you just think like, oh, this is just this, they become toxic as you get older. And so like, so yeah, I want my sons to be better husband than I am, and I want my wife to say I'm a great husband when it's all said and done. I want her to be able to say that, like, I was her biggest cheerleader, biggest critic, biggest supporter. I pushed her to go after her dreams, whether we are agreeing or disagreeing, that we did everything together. We grew together. As a team. Because you hear people say, oh man, we just grew apart. We're supposed to be growing together. You know what I'm saying? And so just being a better leader in that aspect of, hey, making sure we're growing together, and checking in whether the conversation is comfortable or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where that I want my legacy to be, as a husband. And
I love it.
But we talked on fatherhood. What about as a father? Like, what do you want your legacy to be as a father, man?
Man, as a father, man, I want them to know that I gave them everything that I could, and not just materialistic, but time, love, attention, right? Like for me, I want them to feel like, hey, he loved me, right? And I do feel like that was one dynamic growing up that I didn't have an issue with. Like, my dad did tell me that he loved me. He still hugs me, still gives me a kiss on the cheek at 37. So that was not but I know that's not common for a lot of black men.
Yeah, for sure.
They had that very hardened type of, relationship with their fathers. So I want them to feel like, hey, with what dad knew and what he had, he did the best that he could.
Okay.
And he sacrificed, everything that he could. Like, just last night, man, I'm asleep. It's 12:30 now. My oldest is 10. internet, I guess it's windy or rainy, internet goes out, so he usually sleeps with jazz on. Okay. So he knocked his jazz out. So he comes, he's like, man, I was like, honestly, I'm like, man, he 10, he really need to go back to bed. Yeah. But then I was like, that's his way of saying, hey, I'm used to you being there for me, protecting, providing, so I don't want to get out of bed, Dom. Yeah. But I was like, man, let me go ahead. And he said, I'm scared. I'm like, let me go and check and see what's going on. Make sure he feel good. Get him back to sleep. So for me, I think it's that. And I think it's an example that they can enhance on and do when they have kids. And so it's funny, like, especially as they get older, they just have these introspective conversations with you out of nowhere. And so we're just probably riding from sports or something. He's like, man, I bet being a dad is a hard job, because you gotta, sometimes we want your food, or you give us your food, and you gotta get up early.
And I tell you what, my boy sharing his food, he loved you.
Hey, that's the ultimate sign.
My boy sharing his food, he loved you.
What movie was that? Do you remember that? It was a movie where
the brothers,
yes, and they were like, if you give them the last bite of your food, that used to be a thing I used to mess with my wife about, man. Yeah. But hey, if I'm gonna share that food and let you get your,
well, I gotta share his food,
man, because earlier I'm gonna try to take them nubs off. I see you hovering, but yeah, he just said that to me, and I said, hey, like, that's for me, you didn't ask to be here, so my role is to make sure that I'm training you up, that I'm showing you love, so when you get in this position, you can do it above the level that I've done it at, right? With the things that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made along the way. So for me, I think it's definitely about that, and I think, it gets enhanced, especially having lost a child. Yeah. I think it gets enhanced even more, and I think for me, that was where that legacy conversation in general came, because I had time off, and I really was just thinking like, hey, when I die, what are people going to say about me? And it was not that I thought that people was going to say anything bad, but it's like, whatever I left behind for others. Yeah. And so I think that honestly, that's what really sparked the idea around this. Yeah. And then it just started to grow into other things. So, it's really just about love. And anything that was within Dad's reach, he'd give it anything, including his life for his kids, man.
Quiet as kept, you talk about like what's gonna be left behind. If our kids want to hear us talk, this would be left behind. Our grandkids. Oh, I'm saying our great-grandkids. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, that was my great grandpa. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever my name is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
man,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's
you didn't think about that.
Man, he didn't hit your boy today, man.
But when I talk about like legacy as a father, man, you talked about like it's not just materialistic, because our first mindset is, man, we want to give them everything we do.
Absolutely.
But also too, we need to teach them everything we didn't know as well. You know what I'm saying? And how to handle different situations. Man, I was talking to my brother-in-law a couple of weeks ago, and I was walking him through a conversation I was having with one of the kids I trained, and he was like, bro, where was you at when I was growing up? Like, I needed this type of this type of conversation when I was growing up. But I tell my 14-year-old son, like, look, man, I want you to be able to look back and say, I showed you the same grace and mercy as our Heavenly Father shows us every day. So things that I see, I said, some things I see, man, I might not even say anything to you because I'm giving you some grace, bro. Like,
absolutely.
That you're 14, that you gonna mess up and you gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna mess up and make mistakes. Yeah. So, but let's have a conversation and learn and grow from it. I want them to be able to have healthy conversations around conflict and not be afraid to bring anything to me, and let's just talk about it and work through it.
Absolutely.
And not be like,
that's big.
Dad finna just punish me. You know what I'm saying? Not saying you're not gonna get in trouble over some things, but like, hey, here's why you in trouble. Not just because I told you so. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, or you know better. Do I know better? Who taught me?
Man,
Who told me?
You hitting on one right there, man. Like you talked about it in marriage too, about what you talking about is communication.
Yeah.
And going back, that was something again, I know just from even without asking you, I know that you grew up like how I grew up.
Yeah.
Stay in your because I said so.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, you thought about asking why? You get that backhand, you get that belt.
Yeah.
But I had to evolve to a place because I got that belt growing up.
Yeah.
I got that belt. Yeah. And I had to evolve to a place with my kids where it's like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't need now. I'm not saying that they never got the weapons. They did.
Yeah.
But I got to a point in my mind where I'm like you said, I got more evolved and I said, hey, let's talk to this. Let's understand why did you do that? Why did you let me get down to the, let's not just throw that belt and ask questions later. Let me ask first because it may not even have been, what that teacher called and told me that you did or whatever I saw that you did. There may be some, layers to that. Yeah. So that talking piece, especially with your kids, I think it helps them equip them, not just for when they have kids, but in their relationships to communicate.
Psychologically, if you think about it, like if I grow up, I do something wrong, I get whoopings. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, all right, like I'm getting one, I'm gonna even take it back.
Uh-oh. I know you. Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like if we hate slavery so much, guess what whippings came from? Slavery. Yeah. They beat us, so we'll do what they want us to do. Mm-hmm. And so now we're whooping our kids to make them do what we want them to do. But then like you're teaching them as well is like, hey, if somebody get out of line. So we wonder why there's abuse in relationships, why men are beating women. Because I was taught if you get out of line and you don't do what I want you to do, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm a big component of not, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll give you a thump, man, or something like just to get your attention. But like, man, I whooped my son one time, bro, my oldest. And it hurt me more than it hurt him. And I do in that moment felt what my parents felt like when they say it hurts me more than it hurts you.
It sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy, but it's a real thing. And I didn't get a lot of whoopings growing up. I was a good kid. Like some people, my wife be like, I know you got in a lot of trouble. I didn't get in a lot of trouble, man. I was pretty much a good kid, man. But yeah, I want them to be healthy from just an overall mental standpoint of to be able to live life when I'm not here. That I equip them with the tools to handle whatever life throws in their way. You know what I'm saying? Not just Dad gave me everything I want, but he taught me everything I needed to know.
That's more value. Hey, that's going to last longer than any shoes or video game or anything you can get them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I want my legacy to be.
Okay.
As a father, that I taught them, not just I gave them everything. I taught them everything they needed to know. And from like I said, just from like a biblical standpoint, man. And I'm sorry, I'm just having a moment, brother.
So you done got me too. I'm like, dang, man.
Just having a moment, man. I'll even, man, just randomly text my son, like, I'm proud of you. He'd be like, for what, Dad? I said, for nothing, son. Like, you don't, like, trying to show you unconditional love. Like, you don't have to do anything for me to be proud of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think also in our community, like, we're taught to be loved on what are you doing for me? Or did you do what you're supposed to do? Yeah. And if you don't do it,
I pull my love
away. Yeah. No, I'm gonna lean in even more when you do something that I disagree with. You know what I'm saying? To show you, all right, I can mess up and Dad still love me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think what you said, man, I think that goes back again, hey, we not proclaiming to be marriage experts.
No,
all right,
not at all, bro. Look, I promise you, not at all.
Far from it, okay? But what I would say is, I think the tying thing for me is, that unconditional love piece. Yeah. And it's not saying here's an excuse to just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Either side, but it's knowing that, hey, ups, downs, whatever happens. Yeah. Man, that person still has the utmost respect and deepest, fondest love for me. Just as if I was at the altar, or if you eloped, or if you just, whatever you did, that same day when you felt that peak feeling, you should still be able to say, man, no matter what, I go to the ends of the earth for this person. Because if we thinking about it, and we chopping it up, put it on the grill and everything.
Whatever.
You know what I'm saying? If you think about from a biblical standpoint, it's basically saying that we're tasked with loving our mate. That's what our task is. And if we're equating it to Jesus, who died for our sins, he knew that we was dirty and wrong, and he still went and did it. Right. And so I think that's the part where it's like, and there are some layers and complexities. Like there's some people try to twist those things and it can be abusive with it. But the core of it is, if both parties are giving their best effort, or at least trying, then, you know, just to say, hey, I grew apart, or I don't, then, hey, what was really the incentives of doing it in the first place, man?
Man, bro, I think this conversation has been really, really good. You know, definitely an episode that I hope y'all listen to more than once. As I'm talking, I'm still looking inside myself internally, like, you need to grow here. You need to grow here. What do you want the people to put on their to-go plate, man?
Man, maybe 2 or 3 things. One, you know, the cookout is here to be authentic. There's no gimmicks. There's no games. We want to help our people. We want to help people in general. Learn from the things that we've learned, knowledge that we've acquired, mistakes that we've made. We want to help you guys learn from all of that, and we want to see you guys as a sense of community. Other piece on my to-go plate is use knowledge to continue to evolve your mind, right? Don't be just dead set and, hey, this is the way that everything is, but use history, use the information that's in front of you to become a better person. Doesn't mean you have to change your moral codes, your ethics, or your beliefs, but enrich yourself with that knowledge. And because the last thing Dom dropped this on me, when I get old and die, my kids, when you guys see this, my grandkids, my great grandkids, I love all y'all, man. So when I'm dead and gone, hope you guys see this one on when you watch it, man. What you got, man?
Well, first and foremost, like, share, subscribe. Hey, Apple Podcasts, if you don't want to look at us, listen to us.
Yes, sir.
Spotify, listen to us. All right. Let me go and get that out of the way. I want you to be the prayers of your ancestors. I want you to be what your ancestors prayed for. From just an overall human being standpoint, as a husband or wife, as a mother, as a father, as a friend. I just want us to be who our ancestors prayed for.
Man, hey, let the church say amen.
Amen.
Hey, you know how it is, how we get down at the cookout. Hey, remember at the cookout, we putting more than food on your plate. We out.